When a family noticed their German Shepherd refusing to let their newborn baby sleep alone, they thought it was just protective behavior. But one night, when the parents finally discovered the reason, their hearts froze. What they uncovered was so terrifying, they had no choice but to call 911 immediately. The house was quiet, filled with the soft sounds of a newborn's coos and the steady hum of a baby monitor. Emily and James, new parents, were still adjusting to sleepless nights and endless diaper changes. But in the middle of their exhaustion, one presence brought them comfort. Their German Shepherd, Max. Max had always been loyal, but something changed the moment the baby came home. He rarely left the child's side, following Emily when she carried the little one, lying beneath the crib during naps, and even pressing his nose against the blanket whenever the baby stirred. At first, Emily found it heartwarming. "He's like a big brother already," she whispered, watching Max curl protectively around the infant. James chuckled, believing it was simply a dog's natural instinct to guard the smallest member of the pack. The couple smiled at the bond forming before their eyes, unaware that Max's devotion carried a deeper purpose. He wasn't just guarding the baby out of love. He was sensing something they couldn't yet see. As days turned into weeks, Max's devotion grew more intense. During the day, he shadowed the baby like a silent guardian. But at night, his behavior changed. The moment Emily placed the baby in the crib, Max would whine, pacing back and forth across the nursery floor. At first, the couple thought it was separation anxiety. James tried coaxing him away, but Max refused to budge. His ears twitched at every tiny sound, his eyes locked on the crib as though waiting for something to happen. When they tried shutting the door, Max scratched furiously until they opened it again. One night, Emily woke to Max's low growl vibrating through the hallway. She rushed to the nursery and found him standing on his hind legs, paws pressed against the crib, his gaze fixed on the baby. The child was sound asleep, yet Max refused to calm down. Emily stroked his fur, whispering, "What's wrong, boy?" But Max's body remained tense, his nose hovering over the infant like he sensed danger no one else could feel. The following nights only deepened the mystery. No matter how many times James tried to usher Max out of the nursery, the dog refused. He would plant himself by the crib, ears pricked, eyes wide, as if waiting for something invisible to strike. Emily began to worry. What if he senses something wrong with the baby? She whispered one evening, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Dogs had been known to detect illness, seizures, even drops in blood sugar. Could Max be sensing something they couldn't see? James tried to brush it off. "He's just being protective. That's all." But the doubt in his voice betrayed him. Each time Max whined or pressed his nose to the baby's blanket, unease crept deeper into their hearts. The turning point came when Max nudged Emily awake one night, barking sharply until she rushed to the crib. The baby was still sleeping, but Max wouldn't move, his body trembling with urgency. Emily exchanged a worried glance with James. Something wasn't right, and they couldn't ignore it anymore. Night after night, the same pattern unfolded. Emily would place the baby gently in the crib, and Max would immediately stir, whining, pacing, sometimes letting out sharp barks that shattered the silence. The once cozy nursery now felt like the center of some unseen battle, with Max refusing to let his guard down. Exhaustion weighed heavily on the parents. Emily tried rocking the baby in her arms, hoping Max would calm, but the dog only circled them with restless energy. James attempted to lock Max out of the room, yet within minutes the German Shepherd clawed at the door, his cries echoing through the hallway. It was as though he sensed a threat only he could detect. Finally, desperate for answers, the couple set up a baby monitor with a camera. If Max was overreacting, they needed proof. But deep down, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that he was trying to tell them something important, something urgent. That night, as the red recording light blinked quietly in the corner, Max lay rigid beside the crib, his eyes never leaving the sleeping baby. The footage from the baby monitor began like any other night. The infant lay bundled in soft blankets, the gentle rise and fall of his chest steady under the glow of the nightlight. Max sat upright beside the crib, alert as always, his ears twitching at every sound. Hours passed uneventfully, until suddenly, Max's behavior changed. He jumped to his feet, whining urgently, his nose pressed against the crib's bars. On the screen, the baby shifted, his tiny arms twitching. Then his chest stilled for a long moment. His breaths came shallow, and then weaker still. Emily gasped when she saw it live, clutching James's arm. "He's not breathing right," she cried. Max barked loudly, his paw scraping at the crib as if trying to wake the child himself. The parents rushed into the nursery, panic flooding their veins. The baby's lips had turned faintly blue, his chest struggling for air. For the first time, they understood, the dog hadn't been restless. He had been warning them all along. Something was terribly, dangerously wrong. James's hands shook. As he dialed 911, his voice breaking as he pleaded for help. Emily cradled the baby in her arms, rocking desperately, as if her warmth alone could keep him breathing. The infant's tiny chest rose and fell unevenly, each breath weaker than the last. Max barked furiously, circling them, his body tense, his eyes fixed on the child as though urging them not to give up. His barks grew louder, more frantic, until the wail of approaching sirens pierced the night. Paramedics stormed through the front door, rushing upstairs. "We've got a pediatric emergency," one shouted as they gently took the baby from Emily's trembling arms. Oxygen masks, swift hands, and clipped commands filled the room. Emily clung to James, tears streaming down her face, praying for a miracle. Seconds stretched into eternity before one medic looked up and nodded. "We've got him. He's stabilizing." Relief hit like a wave, leaving the parents sobbing in each other's arms. Beside them, Max finally sat down, his chest heaving, his eyes locked on the baby he had just helped save at the hospital. The baby was rushed into intensive care. Emily and James waited in agonizing silence, clinging to each other, while Max sat at their feet, his head resting on his paws, eyes never leaving the doors. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, a doctor stepped out, his expression serious but calm. "Your baby has a condition called sleep apnea," he explained gently. "It causes sudden pauses in breathing during sleep. Without immediate intervention tonight, he might not have survived." Emily's knees buckled as relief and horror washed over her. James wrapped an arm around her, whispering, "He's going to be okay." The doctor added, almost in awe, "If your dog hadn't alerted you, this could have ended very differently." He sensed what none of us could. Emily looked down at Max, her tears falling into his fur as she whispered, "You saved our baby." The German shepherd wagged his tail softly, his gaze steady and proud. He wasn't just their pet anymore. He was their hero. Weeks later, the house felt different. The baby, now safe under medical care, slept peacefully with monitors ensuring every breath. But even with technology, Max never strayed far. He curled beside the crib each night, his ears alert, his body the baby's silent shield. Emily often found herself watching the bond between them grow stronger with each passing day. The baby would giggle whenever Max nudged his tiny hand, and Max responded with gentle patience, as though he understood the child's fragility. Friends and neighbors who heard the story marveled at the dog's instincts. "He knew before anyone else," one said in awe. The tale spread quickly, turning Max into a local hero, but for Emily and James, the greatest gift was simpler. Their baby was alive because of him. One evening, Emily whispered as she stroked Max's fur, "You weren't just protecting him, you were giving us a future." Max looked up, his eyes steady, as if to say he'd do it all over again.